Simon Foster, last week I went on a tear talking about Dendy Newtown being Australia's worst cinema, but I felt bad, Simon. I feel I should bring a lot more positivity into the world. This isn't true. I don't really believe that at all. We should bring a lot more positivity in the world. And so I wanted to open this week's podcast with a big question for you. What is Australia's best cinema?
Dan Barrett, Screen Watchers Everywhere, thanks for joining us. I was taken aback quite a bit by your Dendy Newtown rant last week.
Well, it does suck.
I have connections within the industry, and many were talking about just how unhinged you sound. If I had to say, as a counterpoint, Australia's best cinema, that's a big ask.
It should be that big an ask. I think it's a pretty easy question, ultimately.
Because, you've got to weigh up a few things. I'm going to bury deep into it here very quickly. Is it the programming? Is it the comfy seats? Is it the candy bar?
This is the question for you. How are you judging it? Tell me what you define to be the best. What makes the cinema the best for you, Simon Foster? Simon Herman Foster.
I love the big screen adventure when IMAX is done properly. I love the IMAX cinemas in any of the capital cities where they may be. I've been to the Melbourne one. I've certainly been to the Sydney one. I've been to the Auckland one, which is outside our remit. That's a New Zealand town.
But also, are all IMAXs necessarily built equal? And I ask that only because you may remember, and you probably don't, because unless you're talking, you never remember these things. But I talked about seeing the most recent Avatar film at the new IMAX on the Gold Coast.
Yes.
And I found that to be a really disappointing experience because I started watching the movie from maybe about halfway to 2/3 the way back in the cinema. And it felt just pretty much like a VMAX theater, if not maybe even feel it's smaller than a VMAX theater. But then when I moved forward in the cinema, it felt a lot more like the IMAX in Sydney, where the screen size really was impressive. So are all IMAXs necessarily really built equally? Because I'd say no.
No, they're definitely not. In fact, the IMAX have gone through a rebranding phase where they've allowed certain chains to put the IMAX brand on traditionally non-IMAX screens. So, no, you're right, they're not. And I don't buy into the fact that any film is better on an IMAX screen. I have to know that it's got IMAX segments in it, filmed parts of the movie. I was so blown away by Sinners earlier last year when I saw it, that it had scenes shot for IMAX. And certainly Nolan's going to be doing that with The Odyssey in a few months' time and so on and so forth.
I mean, I think that's underselling it. Every scene in The Odyssey is for IMAX.
Well, exactly right, yeah. So
it's not like The Dark Knight where it just expands and contracts depending on
Sinners. Exactly right. So that's exciting to me. So I would say, but having said that, no recliners in your standard IMAX theatre, certainly not here in Sydney. And I do enjoy a recliner. I saw a movie through the week where I was able to lie back 20 minutes in, realize what a terrible film it was, and I got a good 20 minutes sleep, which I fully appreciate when I buy a movie ticket. So I'm going to say IMAX. I'm going to say for its programming, probably the Randwick Ritz, which I still can't say after all these years, Randwick Ritz. And I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb here and say for retro programming and for some of the more unusual films I do like to see at the cinema, I'm going to say Luna over in Perth, which has a great retro program. They run the Revelation Film Festival over there. Luna in Perth and Cinema Nova in Melbourne are the best for those sort of programming joys. So I'm going to go with a hand grab there.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I think that you've kind of touched upon something which I think is important, which is that we like these cinemas because they offer different types of experiences.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'd back up what you said there. I think in terms of programming, the Randwick Ritz in Sydney, I think is pretty exceptional. They're a sister cinema for the one in Melbourne that I can't think of the name of right now. The Lido.
Dalston Wick, yep.
Yeah. So I think that those, programs are fairly complementary in terms of if you're familiar with the Lido, you'd be familiar with the Randwick Ritz.
Yeah.
I kind of like the Randwick Ritz generally, just as a thing. It's not, you're not going in there for premium screens and for premium chairs by any means.
Not at all.
Okay. But I think that I've never been into a Randwick Ritz and I've got, I think, 8 screens in there now.
A couple of really tiny ones, but yeah, they have got 8 screens.
But I've never been in a super tiny one. I've been into other complexes where I'll find myself on the small screen and look, Dendy Newtown's got a lot of small screens in that complex. But
Sure.
like, I'll be in like a thing where I'll be like, in like Cinema 7 or 8 or something, and it's just like a super small screen. Like, there's certainly smaller boutique theaters in the Ritz, but it's not like an embarrassingly small screen by any
Yeah.
means.
Yeah, no, there are a couple of very small ones that I've been to, a couple of sort of subtitled or children's features that are right up the back there, and they hold like 40 people, so it is quite tiny. But the projection is good, the seats are comfortable.
Seat sounds really good. The seats are comfortable. Also, I like that there's like balconies for a couple of the theaters in there. That's kind of a nice little.
I know that we're going to get letters from our Melbourne listeners, and they're going to scream out the Astor. Now, I've only been to the Astor once. This is the one that our critical friend Zach Hepburn programs and operates down there out in St Kilda. They have a great retro program. The only film I've seen there was the Australian premiere in 70mm of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was a wonderful experience. So I would certainly put that up there. Couple of good ones. I know my sort of second hometown in Launceston in Tasmania has the Star Theatre, and they put screenings on there as well. So look, I love a great cinema experience and the joy of discovering a new cinema. But there's a lot of elements that have got to come for it to come together for me to call it Australia's best.
So I have been to the Astor before. I've been there once, and it was to watch a screening of the Blues Brothers, and this
Nice.
was circa, I'm going to say like about 2001-ish, thereabouts. It was quite a while ago. But I don't really remember that much of the experience there because I was incredibly drunk by the time I got into the cinema. So I'm sure it was fine. But like, I kind of remember like the vibe of the place, and it was pretty good.
Listeners, if you haven't seen Dan Barrett drunk shaking his tail feather, as he would have been during the Blues Brothers, it's quite a
inevitably.
scene. Oh, it's quite a scene.
Look, absolutely. And I'm right now just on Google Maps, just trying to check out the name of the cinema that I went to in Melbourne a couple of months ago. I think it was in Carlton. Yeah, it was on
That's
Lycon
Nova.
Street.
That's my friends at Nova.
That's
Lycon.
Nova.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love the Nova. That's I full disclosure here. I run the leg of my Melbourne Sydney Science Fiction Film Festival down there, and they always do a good job for me. So full disclosure there. But yeah, no, they have some great programming and some good screens as well.
Yeah, the theater I was in was, I mean, it wasn't massive, but like it seemed sizable. But I saw a double feature of Beetlejuice and Little Shop of Horrors. What I liked about that experience was that you had an audience that were primed to see those films, but I get the feeling that their retro programming is generally pretty well received generally.
Absolutely.
Okay, but like it was a very enthusiastic audience, and like you could just feel like an energy of the room of people excited to be out there seeing a movie. And
Well,
to me,
see-
like the vibe of being in that room was exactly how I feel that if you were to get the spirit of Letterboxd and put it into a physical space, it was that
Beautiful.
space.
That's well said. I know exactly what you mean by that. It is. That's another element of what makes a great movie going experience and speaks to the best Australian cinema is that the crowd that you're seeing it would Nova have a lock on all the, a huge chunk of the Melbourne festival market. Monster Fest goes there. I go there. I know they have some of the foreign language festivals, Japan and stuff like that there. So, that's a big part as well. Being able to talk with the staff and with other patrons about movies, it makes it a real mecca.
No, you lost me there. I don't want to talk to anyone else when I'm at the cinema.
Yeah, I forgot I was dealing.
That is not what I'm there for.
No, people,
And
they're
also-
the worst.
They really are.
Yeah.
Give me an empty cinema, and I'm generally like a pig in whatever.
I so agree with that. I love seeing movies by myself.
Now, in terms of just like technical, like screen size and visual quality and sound and the seats and like that actual sort of experience of just seeing a movie within like a modern theater experience, I actually think that Australia's best cinema is the Angelica cinemas that they've set up in Brisbane.
Yes, heard
Yeah.
great things, never been there.
It's incredible. So they're not massive. It's, I think maybe like 7 or 8 rows is probably like the biggest one they've got there. But they've got the sort of lock in terms of the tier is completely right. So, essentially you don't want to be like sitting right behind someone and like their head sort of in the way or whatever. Like, you've got a really good sort of tier. The seats are all incredibly comfortable. A lot of recliners going in there. They may all be recliners. I'm just trying to remember exactly, but I don't think I've been into a cinema in there and it wasn't reclining. all very comfortable chairs. That screen size is exactly right in terms of depth from the seats, in terms of width of screen to room proportion. Like, it is fantastic. I've never had a bad movie experience there. They do the thing that I don't care for generally, which is food being delivered to chairs.
Ugh.
It's like, if you need to eat a
I
meal,
hate that. That is such a gimmick.
yeah, if you need to eat a meal, have a meal before you go into the theater. Like, it's pretty rare that there's not restaurants around a cinema somewhere. Or do what you're supposed to do, like God intended. Go and get a sneaky cheeseburger, pop it into your jacket, and eat it midway through a movie. Okay, I don't want to be distracted because you want to chow down on a big plate of nachos at some point.
No, you'd rather have the stench of a cheeseburger going through. And these people who eat sushi in movies, what the F is going on there?
I've done that before.
Oh, my God. Let's move on from
I've done it
this.
before, and I'll do it again.
I've not done any movie I'm with you, that's for sure.
I will say they do a reason, and like, despite the fact I'm not big into people ordering food in the theater, I've done it a couple of times at the Angelica. They do a reasonably good pizza, but I'm not going to do this into, like, dinner reviews at cinemas, but the Blue Room Cinebar in Rosalie in Brisbane, it's not a great cinema generally. Like, it's okay, it's not offensively bad, but they do an excellent chicken pizza, which is really what you go to the cinema for.
Of course, yeah. Where else would you go for chicken pizza? Well, that all worked out very well. We had a lot of opinions on that. We haven't even mentioned Govinda's, where you can see a movie in a beanbag and have a vegetarian meal afterwards. So that's where I saw my what was that big fat ass thing with Aubrey Plaza? I saw that there last year.
My old ass. It's
my
not.
old ass.
Yeah, size has got nothing to do with it, Simon.
I've been saying that since high school. All right, let's move on.
Hello.
Hello.